The NASCAR Winston Cup Series is back for the 2003 season as we're here at the beautiful Daytona International Speedway for the running of the Gatorade Duels. The race is to determine which 42 drivers will fire their engines up for the 2003 Daytona 500 in just a few days' time. It's great to be here with Trey Bartow back in the booth here for the NASCAR Winston Cup Series season. And Trey, a lot happened over the offseason. So many big moves, so many drivers moving to different teams, or maybe drivers just staying in the same place but getting different sponsors, or even some major teams like Joe Gibbs Racing switching manufacturers, leaving one manufacturer to have very few cars in the 48 car field. So Trey, as we get into this season, what was the biggest storyline, do you think, coming off of the offseason?
I don't know, to be honest, Joe. I think it involves what was used to be, or slow start kind of is, our two biggest powerhouse teams. It's the owner of Hendrick going back into a car, and then Hendrick getting a new owner, and those guys switching drivers. I mean, Joe, those two teams had half the news over the offseason.
Yes, they did. I mean, think about it. It was almost kind of like a swap of areas, kind of, where
Yeah.
Lathan Strickland was in a DEI car and then went to Hendrick, and the Hendrick owner went to the DEI car.
Yeah, it's normally you see, like, you consider it a trade, I guess. Normally that's for like football, hockey, stuff like that. Not really in stock car racing.
Yeah, not in motorsports. And I'm wondering when we get to duel number 2, because we have some Hendrick cars in that duel, and we have Ryan Wilson in that duel, who used to be their owner. What's that going to be like for those drivers? Like, I think Justin Zeidel, Brett Sierra, right? They both raced under his ownership. Now they're racing against him on a rival team. What is that going to be like, especially in this duel, right? The first time that those guys will have that.
Well, we can't hide the fact that last season those Hendrick drivers were pretty vocal about their ownership. So I don't know if it's going to be the best, cut the guy a break here and there. It might be a little bit more of I'll give you an inch, but you're not getting two.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see what goes on out there.
And speaking of transferring owners, Bradshaw Racing got a new owner in the offseason, because Lathan Strickland was the owner for that team, but since he went to Hendrick and Bradshaw Racing is a DI affiliate, a DI driver had to step up to be the owner. Well, that was Eli Bright in the number 8, and he is in this duel with his car. And the big thing for his car, this team won the 500 last season. They swapped their number to 81 to make it more like a DI, 8 and 1 together, but they're on the pole for this duel, and if they finish this race in one piece, they'll be on the pole for the Daytona 500. So from going to win the 500 last season trade now to starting on pole for the Daytona 500, that team has their stuff figured out at restrictor plate tracks. And don't forget, the new driver Samit Oskin, he won the last time out at a plate track at Talladega last season.
Yeah, I don't know how you're ever going to go against any sort of DEI car or DEI affiliate car here at restrictor plate type tracks, because Joe, honestly, they're just unbeatable.
They were, yeah, and last season they had some really good runs there. Think about, I think they only won one of them, but Lathan Strickland did it in dominating fashion at Talladega when he did it. But in the other ones, they all had really fast cars. I think back to the 500, that's some pretty fast cars. I think back to the Talladega race in the fall where they had good cars, and Oskin ended up winning it. So we'll just have to see if those DI cars can rise to the occasion here today at Daytona. But there's some interesting faces here in duel number 1, and they all kind of start at the front of the field. Samit Oskin for Bradshaw Racing. Nathan Orman has moved over to Bill Davis Racing in the 23. Noah Lawrence for Evernham starts in 3rd. Jude Martinelli in Jasper's 2nd car in the 67 starts 4th. And Roberto Crown Jr. for Petty Enterprises starts inside the top 5 as well. So Trey, those top 5 starters, they're not what you used to see inside the top 5 to start a race, especially at a track like Daytona. And you go to Chris Jericho in 6th place. That's the highest of the drivers that you expect to be starting at the front of the field. So what's it going to be like for these drivers that are back at the field, like Thompson, Bright, Kukulon, or Justin Atkins, and Lathan Strickland? Some of these big names, Jay Randall, that are back there, further back in the pack, have to work their way through drivers that maybe don't get to run up at the front of the field often, if ever.
Yeah, I mean, you want to see what your car is, right? But at the same time, it's the duel, so you don't really want to tear your stuff up.
No. And especially if you're Samit Oskin, you don't want to tear your thing up, because then you lose your front row. While you're still locked into the race, you lose your front row spot. And I'm sure these teams take great pride in putting their cars on the front row for the great American race. As it's about time to go down trackside to get command to fire the engines up for the first dual race of the day here at Daytona. 24 cars ready to take the green flag after this starting command.
Drivers, start your engines!
Well, Trey, it's great to hear cars fired back up and ready to go racing here at Daytona as it's all about to kick off in the first Gatorade duel of the day. Back in 6th place, how about this man? Chris Jericho in the 18 has had one of the best starts to Winston Cup Series career you could ever imagine. In 2000, he finished inside the top 5 in points, getting multiple wins. The next season, he won the championship with a very, very impressive season. And then last season, backed it up with a runner-up in the championship to his teammate, Matt, as well. So, Trey, 3 straight top 5 points finishes to kick off his Winston Cup Series career. Chris Jericho, how big are the expectations for this 2003 season?
You got to think that they're going to continue the dominance, right? If JGR can do what they did to do, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what they can do and if they can pick up from where they left off.
The big change, though, for Jericho this season, he's in a Chevrolet. Joe Gibbs Racing has been with Pontiacs his first few seasons of his career. They moved over to Chevrolet. We'll see how that impacts things, especially with how many major Chevy teams there are in the Winston Cup Series. And speaking of Pontiac, let's go back here to a new Pontiac team that was just formed over the offseason with Henry Guo behind the wheel in the Zero car, and it's Bardo Haas Racing. Trey, what are the expectations for this new team coming into a manufacturer that doesn't have really much support? There's only, I think, 3 teams in the whole series that are running Pontiacs this season.
Yeah, it's we're definitely part of I guess you can say a dying breed, but I mean I have great faith in this team. I think we can make a good impact on our first season here, and I'm excited to see what we can do.
Well, we'll start at the back of the field. We'll see if he can work his way through and lock himself into the 2003 Daytona 500. Seben Ozgen looking to finish this race where he starts it on the front row. 15 laps of action in the first Gatorade duel, and we're underway in the 2003 season. With the restrictor plates on these cars, it takes about a full lap to get up to full speed as Ozgen trying to lead down into turn 3. Nolan Lawrence looking low. Ozgen able to keep clear. Lawrence trying to move through the second. Roberto Crown Jr., Mitchell Collins on the inside starting to move forward as it's Ozgen from pole leading off turn number 4. Still in the lead in this dual race. He's looking to lead the first lap in this duel, and he'll do it while there's no points on the line. It still feels good, Trey, to lead in these Winston Cup Series cars.
You know what else feels good, Joe? It's hearing these engines back going around this track. It's been a while, and I'll be honest, Joe, I kind of missed it.
Yeah, it's great to hear these Winston Cup cars back to full horsepower as Roberto Crown Jr. moves out in front in the 43. Mitchell Collins moves through to second, and here comes Keegan Thompson, one of the most vocal Hendrick drivers from last season, as he didn't have the season he was wanting. Thompson up to 3rd place, and you have to think Hendrick Motorsports very excited with what they can do this season with their new team owner Jordan Edwards, and now with Lathan Strickland coming over. I think this could be a potent team in this 2003 season, maybe competing for a championship finally again.
Yeah, they definitely struggled. They only had 1 win last season, and it was the new team on the organization, that 48, who's coming on the inside right now. I mean, they definitely struggled, so it really came to a surprise to everyone else as well. So we'll have to see if Hendrick can get back up to their dominant ways. But Joe, another dominant team, and that was that Roush at 97. But Joe, he's the only one of his teammates that's in this duel.
Yeah, what is that? Like, if you're with a multi-car organization, but you don't have any friends with you, right? If you're a 4-car operation, Roush is a 5-car operation this season. You only have 1 of you in this duel. I mean, what are the odds that the other 4 would be placed in the second duel away from you?
Well, you feel lonely because you have no teammates, and you better hope that you have some friends out there from other organizations that are willing to help you out, because if not, it's going to be a long duel race.
Well, I thought these two were going to be friends. Thompson and Strickland, the two teammates from Hendrick, they had gotten lined up first and second, but I think Strickland wants to feel that Hendrick car in the wind and see how it compares to one of those DEI cars out in the wind as Lathan Strickland moves to the lead here at Daytona. And look at already on the inside, Henry Guo moving up. Thompson tried to come down, but I think the spotter called inside the last second, and Guo stays to the bottom, heads up from Jerry Chen in the 59. So already those drivers that start at the back, like the 0, the 59, the 22, and the 28, they're moving their way up inside the top 5 and top 10.
Yeah, they're definitely trying to, see what this pack racing is all about here at Daytona. It's a shuffle game, except unless you're in a Hendrick car, because apparently those two are pretty strong out front together.
Yeah, that was, I thought Thompson's going to get shuffled back to the outside there, but he got a run and got down in front of Guo, and now he's in second place trying to run his teammate Lathan Strickland back down, as now Guo is in third, Chen is in fourth, and how about Riley Sprotube up to fifth? He started this race in last place, 24th. 4 laps in, he's up into the top 5 already, and remember, he had a very fast car in qualifying. He just got caught out by inspection. In fact, 3 different teams did. It was Riley Sprotube for Robert Yates Racing that got caught out, Laura Chung for Evernham, and Zachary Fitzwater Sr. for Penske Racing. 2 of those 3 were set to start inside the top 10, so there were some big names. Riley Sprotube, Zachary Fitzwater Sr. both were set to start inside the top 10, but failed inspection. But Riley's shown that his car just as fast in this race trim.
Yeah, definitely, and Joe, think about it right now, right? Was it 4 or 5 of these top 6 or 7 have all started within the last 3 rows or so at the beginning of this dual race, right?
Yeah, I mean, besides those Hendrick cars out in front, really everyone up at the front are drivers that kind of start out back, like the 0, the 57, the 59, the 77, and the 28. And coming up to try and join his teammates, you can see Jacob Miller with a big run there to the inside of that 0 car, as Miller back with CLR Racing looking to have some success, some more success than he had last season. You saw Jude Martinelli moving up on the inside, trying to get towards his teammate Tyler Belladonna, and that number is 77. Jasper, once again, a 2-car organization this season, but this season, Trey, they have 2 full-time drivers rather than a bunch of drivers splitting that 67 car.
Yeah, I think that's definitely going to help that organization. I mean, it'll be nice that, the pit crews and the crew chiefs and the spotter and the drivers can all, form that relationship that you need to have a strong team instead of, having a driver this week, another one next week, and a different one the following week. So it'll be interesting to see what those guys can do having a consistent basis every week.
Well, Riley Sprotube is done with this Hendrick fun at the front of the field. He wants to get Robert Yates Racing and a Ford to the front of the field here at Daytona. As Riley moves to the inside, he'll get second. And Trey, he did that all by himself. He had no one back there pushing him, but he still got to the inside of the 5 of Thompson. Maybe that 28 has some pretty good horsepower under that engine.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're the 48 and you saw that the guy behind you just passed your teammate all by himself, you might want to kind of look out behind you here, drive the mirror a little bit, and to see if you can keep him out. But I don't know if it's going to keep him for long.
He was looking, and he has a Ford teammate back there. In fact, 2 Ford teammates back there with him, maybe willing to push. Jacob Miller and Jude Martinelli are kind of going with Riley at the moment, not trying to pull out and pass him. We'll see if it stays that way. Here comes Nathan Orman, and there goes Riley, going for the lead on Lathan Strickland down the back straightaway. Can the 28 take it away from the 48? It looks like he will through 3 and 4. He has the inside preferred lane, and it's Riley Sprotube moving to the front of the field, lap number 8, and might bring Jude Martinelli up to second with him. And here comes Orman, and then how about Sarah Kirchner? And RCR's new 4th car for the season brought Kirchner over from Chip Ganassi Racing, and now here she is moving up inside the top 5 as we're nearing 5 laps to go in the first Gatorade duel of the day.
You mentioned Keegan Thompson was pretty vocal on Hendrick. Kirchner was pretty vocal on her old team, and majority of it was not the nicest things.
No, and I think it pained her after qualifying when she saw that the 40 car, her old ride from last season, beat her by 1 position. She was like, well, how did that happen if I'm with an RCR car? But obviously, they set that car up to race and not necessarily to just get that 1 single lap in.
Yeah, definitely. And, you can tell she might be new to the team because I don't know if you noticed that down the backstretch, but her teammate kind of left her out to dry.
An RCR car leaving another one out to dry? I've never seen that before, Trey.
Well, I guess they're sticking to their old ways, aren't they?
I guess it worked for Atkins, though, because here he comes to the race lead with 6 laps to go. He brings Mitchell Collins up to second with him, and a change of scenery for Penske Racing as well this season, where they were with Fords for the past few seasons. Now they're with the Dodge organization, and we'll have to see how that helps Dodge as a whole, right? Because really before this season, their 2 biggest were Evernham and then also Chip Ganassi Racing. now they put Penske into that organization, and Penske's a really good team to have around. They have won races in the past and have competed for championships in the past, so you have to think that will help. As here comes another RCR car, Sebastian Kukulan trying to move up with Justin Atkins as we have 5 laps to go in the first Gatorade duel. And look at back there, Max Davis. I don't know if that car just got loose off the tri-oval or if he made a big move trying to look at on Kukulan or trying to block the 19 behind him. Whatever it was, that was a pretty aggressive move right there out of Max Davis.
Yeah, I don't know. That's not in the best of places for that to happen either, but it seemed like that 21's back under his control now, and he might try to fill it out here as, oh, Joe, look, teammate passing teammate here.
Yeah, you would think Kukulan would have stayed with Atkins to stay 1-2 for RCR, but that's just not how the RCR drivers do things. As Kukulan looks to move out in front, coming back to 4 to go, but here comes on the inside, Nolan Lawrence, Eli Bright, Chris Jericho, and Angel Gutierrez for AJ Foyt Racing. 4 laps to go in this duel so far. It's been clean, and you have to think with how they're racing right now, very little 3 wide, they can stay pretty clean throughout the end of this race, and everyone can try and finish this thing in one piece and keep their primary car for the Daytona 500.
A little bit of an aggressive move there by that 19, but he's going to make it work, getting helped by Eli Bright and Chris Jericho behind Eli, but still battling for that lead as they're going to shuffle themselves here through. And Eli looks like he's going to be taking it here, but is it going to stay long with Jericho looking to the bottom 3 wide?
I didn't expect to see that because, you know, the past few seasons at Drafting Tracks, those were 2 best drafting friends, and now they're with the same manufacturer. I thought they would have stayed with each other a lot more, but Jericho abandoned Eli down to the bottom. He'll lead for himself with 3 laps to go, and maybe he's just a little angry because he, you know, while it was a teammate winning the championship last season, he still lost it in the final race. He was the points leader entering into it, but lost it to his teammate Matt as well, so maybe there's still some pent-up aggression even after all this off-season time.
Yeah, they're, you know what? Only time's going to be able to tell, Joe. But don't count out Kirchner here or this 41-42. Oh, we're good, right? We're good.
I was going to, you know, mention Kirchner looking in her mirror, sees 2 of her old teammates back behind her, and there comes Stapleton trying to help as they're looking 4 wide back here.
Oh, that's not good, Joe. That normally doesn't work off turn 4 here.
That could end the race short if they do in fact wreck, but I think Baird backed out to give everyone to run around him. That was a very, very courteous thing out of Nathan Baird right there. Sarah Kirchner leads for RCR with 2 laps of racing to go. Can she hold off her old teammate Nathan Stapleton, who has a run into second place, help from Jacob Miller, and here comes another Hendrick car. Keegan Thompson back to the front of the field. Maybe he's timed it just right in the draft.
We'll have to see how stuff shuffles out here, Joe. It's always hard to tell who you think's going to come out on top near the end of this thing, this 57. He's not. It's not the first time we've seen him outperform his equipment, and he's doing it once again.
He's trying to get himself into the Daytona 500, trying to get into the big show by finishing inside the top 15 or 16 here today as Miller comes off turn number 4, trying to run down Sarah Kirchner for maybe the race win, but Keegan Thompson, with help from Jay Rando, looks to do it. Rando, remember, was Thompson's teammate last season, and now here they are, nose to tail, trying to run down Sarah Kirchner. Down to turn number 1, Keegan Thompson with a run, trying to look to the inside, and he gets there. Thompson for the lead.
They're gonna go, Joe. He's got a strong car behind him here, so it makes you wonder: are they gonna stay connected down this back, or is it gonna be all for themselves? He might not even get the chance.
Jay Rando trying to get a run right here, but Max Davis doesn't really give him a boost in that number 21. Keegan Thompson, the 2000 Daytona 500 champion, leads into turns 3 and 4. Winless last season, nearly 1 year last season in the night race until a lap car of Kukulan cost him at the end. But here today, Keegan Thompson wins Gatorade Duel number 1 at Daytona. Well, that was good for him. That's a confidence boost right there if you ever needed one.
Yeah, definitely, and I think he's gonna take that as far as he can. And look, even his teammate's gonna give him a nice congratulatory wave here.
Yeah, his new teammate Nathan Strickland also got back up to the front there at the end, finished inside the top 5. So both the Hendrick cars are going to be starting the Daytona 500 in a pretty good position. And I'd expect them to be maybe some of the favorites after watching this duel here, Trey. Remember when they got out front, they really pulled away, and they could those 2 and maybe their 2 teammates, they could be the Daytona 500 favorites entering into Sunday.
I don't think you can ever bet against them.
Yeah, except for last season.
Well, that's last season, Joe. This is a new season, new management.
Yeah, new management, and I think some newborn confidence for Keegan Thompson, Lathan Strickland, and the other Hendrick cars that we'll see in the second duel as Thompson wins this one, and he's going to be going to a Gatorade victory lane to celebrate with his team on winning this dual race. So it was Thompson out in front at the checkered flag. Jay Randall ends up in second, a very impressive run with his new team of Roush Racing. How about Max Davis? He said after qualifying, because he didn't have the owner's points to make it to lock his way in to these races, he said after qualifying, I'm not worried. I'll get up there and race it in the duels. He did just that, finishing in third place. Lathan Strickland a solid fourth place, and Riley Spurgeon from the back of the field after failing inspection after qualifying. Top 5 for that number 28 here. Nathan Baird puts his way into the 500, 6th place here. Sebastian Kukulon in 7th. How about Baird's teammate Nathan Ormond in 8th place? 9th place for Sarah Kirchner. Jerry Chen races his way into the 500 with a 10th place here in that number 59. 11th goes to Jacob Miller. He's in. We know Samet Oskin was in the 500. Chris Jericho has made it in. Angel Gutierrez has made it in. How about Henry Guo has made it in that number 0. And the number 42, Nathan Stapleton, has also raced his way into the Daytona 500. So drivers will have to watch for throughout the second duel and determine where they might stack up against some of the others. How about Roberto Crown Jr., Mitchell Collins, Jason Albert, Justin Atkins in the number 30, Nolan Lawrence in the 19, the 77 Tyler Belladonna, Eli Bright in the 8, and the 67 of Jude Martinelli. For some of those drivers, they should be good to fall back on their speed, like the 67, like the 19. But for some of them, they might have to be worried, like the 77, like the 41. So we'll just have to see how it all plays out in the second Gatorade duel. We'll go take a quick break here on JRTV, but come back with 24 more drivers ready to compete in the second Gatorade duel of the day. Welcome back to JRTV, back here at the Daytona International Speedway, getting ready for the second Gatorade duel of the day. 24 more drivers ready to do battle and try and lock their way into the big show later on Sunday. We already know some of the drivers that are not quite locked in yet and are questionable, like Justin Atkins, Eli Bright, Nolan Lawrence, Mitchell Collins, Roberto Crown Jr., Jude Martinelli, Jason Albert, and Tyler Belladonna. We know those drivers some of them are sweating it, right, because they're not necessarily locked in yet. For Justin Atkins, we know he's in. He's one of the top 6 owners points from last season. We know Nolan Lawrence is in with his speed that he had in qualifying. We also know, Mitchell Collins has a pretty good shot. He was 13th in qualifying. Same with Roberto Crown Jr., Jude Martinelli. They were both inside the top 10 in qualifying. But then you go to Jason Albert, who doesn't have great owner's points, nor did he have a great lap time. He is going to be very questionable, and so is Tyler Belladonna in the 77, who had no owner's points to fall back on. The 77's owner's points went to the 59 from last season, and he was also 43rd in qualifying. So, Trey, if you're those two drivers, Jason Albert, Tyler Belladonna, you're here in, sitting wherever you are, either back at the motor coach lot, or maybe you're somewhere with your team watching this second duel. Really everything out of your control, and you probably know the situations that need to arise for you to make it in, which drivers have to race their way in, which drivers have to fall out. But Trey, if you're one of those drivers, it's not looking so good for you, because you don't really have anything going your way.
Yeah, you're doing any sort of superstition you have for stuff to go your way. You're counting your lucky stars, you're buying lottery tickets, anything you could do to try to get luck on your side, huh?
Yeah, and this is a duel full of pretty big names in it. Look at some names just at the front of the field: DeLello, Hernandez, Wells, Zidell, Richardson, Stout, Rainey, Sierra, Hunter, Burnett, Evans. That's all the way back, and you still have some more back there: Fitzwater, Laura Chung. Trey, there are some big names in this second duel ready to go at it. And, oh, by the way, last season's champion, Mathis Wells, starting in 3rd place. He's looking to pick up where he left off. And a little bit of a special scheme for the Daytona 500. It's a little bit golder, and also has a picture of that championship trophy they won last season on the sides of the car.
Yeah, they're really flaunting that, aren't they?
They are. They're like, listen, if you want it, come and get it, because I don't think they had plans to slow down this season.
No, definitely not, and everyone else knows that 20 has a target on its back. He's probably got to be the guy you want to beat again this season, so we'll have to see if the 20 can, like you said, pick back up where they left off, or if someone else is going to come over and take that hot seat.
Maybe that some other person could be someone from Hendrick Motorsports. We talked about in the first duel, both cars raced very well. Keegan Thompson won it. Lathan Strickland ended up in 4th. Now, here we are in the second duel. Justin Seidel, Brett Sierra both start on the inside row. 2 more Hendrick cars. And Trey, remember the last time Brett Sierra was injured and then he came back the beginning of the next season? He won the Daytona 500 and nearly won the championship. He was injured at the end of last season, sat out the whole rest of the season. Now he's back at the 500. Could he possibly win the 500, compete for the championship? I mean, with how Hendrick has raced so far here at Daytona, what do you think?
Well, I mean, if it ends up happening again, Joe, this might sound bad, but Sierra might want to look into getting injured more often because it seems to work out for him at the beginning of the following season. But yeah, I mean, if the events play out the same way as it did last time, that's I don't know if you call it a Cinderella story or if you call it bad luck or if you call it, I don't even know what you call it.
A mix of everything, I think, is what you would call it. I don't know, but
sure. Good bad fairy tale.
Yes, something like that. But Brett Sierra, he'll start in 9th place today, looking to move his way through the field, and he's in a Winston Cup car for the first time since his accident at the Darlington Raceway towards the end of last season. As it's about time to go down tracks, I get the command to fire these 24 cars up for the second and final Gatorade Duel race of the day.
Drivers, start your engines!
And there moved 24 cars off the starting grid, ready for 15 more laps at Daytona to find out the 42 cars that will race in the 2003 Daytona 500. Keeping on the man on pole position for the second duel, Zachary DeLello. He qualified inside the top 3 and 3rd. However, after some inspection failures, he moved up to 2nd place. Trey, he's locked into the Daytona 500, and that is major for him because he has no owner's points to fall back on. The 16 team, brand new this season. They had no owner's points from last season, so if he wasn't fast, he would have had to race his way in. Now he can just go out here for fun and get used to this number 16 team rather than the 97 he's been with for the past 2 seasons.
Get used to it, Joe, but again, don't wreck the car. You have one job this race. Don't wreck the car.
Yeah, not only can you start on the front row, but we know that this car is pretty darn fast, and DeLello wants to keep it that way for sure. Now let's go to the other end of the spectrum. A guy with a fast car, but isn't starting that well. Zachary Fitzwater Sr. was the original man set to start on the outside of the front row for the Daytona 500. However, after inspection, he was found to have an illegal car, not within the specs that NASCAR sets for these cars. So he goes from set to start on pole for this dual tray to starting back in 23rd and really needing to race his way in because now he has no time to fall back on, and he was only 24th in owner's points last season. So if Zachary Fitzwater Sr. does not race well here today, Trey, he could go from being front row of the 500 to not even making the 500.
Did you see what he said after he found out? He goes, I hate super speedways. That was it. That's all he had to say about it.
That's a common theme for Fitzwater. I don't think he's ever liked these things, but maybe he'll find a way to like it today by possibly winning it. The pace car is going into pit lane, and it leaves the field in the hands of Zachary DeLello and Anthony Hernandez for DEI in the outside of the front row as 15 laps are underway in the second Gatorade Duel of the day. Well, Trey, Ryan Wilson wasted no time going from 4th place down to 3rd on the inside. I mean, he saw that hole in front of Justin Seidel, immediately took in the 15s up to 3rd now, and looking low for 2nd on Matt as well as last season's champion. And remember, he's been out of the car for the whole last season because he was the team owner of Hendrick, but here he is. It looks like he hasn't really missed a step so far.
Yeah, I know at the beginning of the duel number 1, we talked about that little driver swap they had there, right? Strickland going to the 48, Wilson coming to the 15, and Strickland looked strong in that 48. Oh!
Was that a block?
Hey, well, we also talked about what the relationship would have been like between, old owner and drivers. Joe, that didn't look too friendly.
Was that a block, or was that Seidel going with them? I couldn't tell if that was coordinated or if that was Ryan Wilson saying, listen, you are not passing me.
I kind of look like a block.
And look at this 11
but that
car.
just might be me instigating stuff too. I can't tell you.
How about Joshua Harrison? He got shot out of a cannon off turn number 2, has a run down the back, pulls alongside him by Seidel and right to the back of Ryan Wilson. I mean, this Brett Bodine car looks pretty sporty early on in this race. I mean, I know we're only onto the second lap, but gosh dang, he's been flying this past half a lap.
Yeah, we'll have to see if that... Oh, he looks like he's still trying to get around here as these guys behind him are starting to shuffle. There's one of Hernandez is also trying to get up with his teammate here. The 11's going to take it down to the bottom. The 1 is actually going to go help his teammate.
How about Joshua Harrison for Brett Bodine Racing, one of the smaller teams in the field? He moves out in front, passing a DEI car by pure speed. And there comes another RCR car. We talked about them in the last duel with the other 3, Atkins, Kukulon, and Sarah Kirchner. Kirchner almost won her duel. Now Evans, the lone RCR car in this duel. Here he is making a move on Joshua Harrison and getting to the lead, bringing Matt Tuck with them. Tuck raced a few races last season. Oh my gosh, did you see Hernandez and Fitzwater right there? They almost made contact.
Yeah, it's I don't know if Fitzwater. First off, how did he get up here so fast? And second off, yeah, I don't know if he's gonna like that too much, given that he just got up here, that he almost ended the race.
Yeah, that was Hernandez looked to make a move to the middle, and there was no room in the middle to make that move, and he quickly had to dart back to the right. If not, he was gonna hit that number 2 of Zachary Fitzwater Sr. Back to Matt Tuck. Raced a few races last season for Hendrick Motorsports in relief of Brett Sierra. So if there's anyone that has really good experience that's entering in as a rookie, it's this man Matt Tuck, because he knows what it's like to be behind the wheel of a very, very fast car, a very big organization.
Oh,
and now here he is for
Joe.
PPIs. Yeah, as you mentioned, 4 wide.
Oh, no,
last season's champion Mathis Wells. Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness, Joe! It's always the second duel.
Yep, and look at back here. You had mentioned keep the car clean.
Can't tell. Is that the... Oh, that's... No. You had... Oh, no.
Now, he is driving away, but that's a lot of damage. I don't know if he's going to be able to finish it. If he can finish it, they can probably repair it in time for the 500. But if he can't finish this race, I don't know.
Yeah, that's not good. I mean, he might have even dropped to the back just to get out of the way of trouble, Joe.
Yeah,
but
and then the trouble found him back there.
I was gonna say trouble ended up finding him.
Oh.
That's just I mean, I guess it's just a byproduct of these restricted plate tracks. Is that, I mean, in reality, you're not safe anywhere.
Yeah, you cannot get away. And Zachary DeLello, who was set to start on the outside of the front row, has major damage in that number 16. Justin Seidel has pretty big damage. He was in the air. So was Colin Lewis in the 91. I'm surprised that 91 drove away, but he did.
Yeah, that's beat up.
He needs to really stay in this race, too, because he doesn't have the owner's points to fall back on. Very mediocre speed in qualifying. Mathis Wells, that number 20, took a pretty big hit. And obviously he's in because he was the champion last season. He's in by owner's points, but that 20 has some pretty big damage. Keyshawn Richardson was back here. I don't know if he missed it or not. We'll have to take a look in the replays and see if he was able to find a way through. And there's DeLello, and we saw Benny Lynn. He's already done in the 40. That's big there. Didn't have a very good lap in qualifying and didn't have a very good owner's points position as well. As the first caution of the day is out, and it happened in the second duel. As you mentioned, Trey, if one's calm, the other one's always a little bit crazier. We'll go take a look what happened to bring out this caution flag 4 wide off of turn number 4. It never works well, and in this case, it did not work for about 5 or 6 cars at the back half of the field. So we've gone back a few ways. The guys in the truck have gone back a little bit here to show you exactly what happened. So they're 3 wide at this point, entering into turn 3. Zeidel's a run on Benny Lynn and says, well, I can take it. And maybe a spotter didn't call that the 91 was beneath the 20 at that point, so he only thought that they were maybe 2 wide at that point and said, I'll just make it 3. And then right here, they're now 4 wide because of it, and Colin Lewis and Mathis Wells are rubbing together. And, I mean, there just wasn't enough room. Lewis is trying to keep it on the track and just can't because Wells...
Never gave him a space.
Yeah.
And then watch this. Oh, 3 cars up on either no wheels or 2 wheels.
Under the 40.
Oh my goodness. And the 24 was under the 91 pretty much too, Joe. That's a scary wreck there. Luckily, all cars stayed on their tires and no one ended up flipping over, but oh my goodness, Joe, we can never get away from this stuff.
No, we can't. And that's a lot of Zeidel, DeLello, Wells, that's Keyshawn Richardson, a lot of big names that were involved in this. Obviously, DeLello, just because he was trying to start in the front row for the 500. Justin Zeidel trying to just rebound It's been a dismal last few seasons for the Hendrick Motorsports drivers trying to get back to victory lane for the first time since 2000. And Matheus Wells, the champion from last season, looking to pick up where he left off, but it's not going to happen. He has a lot of damage to that number 20 car, and he's probably going to be hanging around at the back for the rest of the race. We'll go take a look at this wreck a few more times in full speed. Here's the same view, but at full speed, and just happened so fast, Trey. I mean, they were hitting one point, then you're spinning the next, and right there, as you mentioned, we are so fortunate that those 3 cars that got up onto their sides or in the air, they all stayed on the ground after, on all 4 wheels when they came back to the ground.
And luckily, the catch fence did his job, because I think the 91, if not, I believe it was the 40 got into it too. So might have to take a little bit of time to repair those, but luckily they did their jobs in. As you can see, the 16 here is slowly rolling away, and I guess it's just a matter of time to see if it can continue or not.
Yep, and we'll go take a look at this wreck from one more view from the camera that's mounted on the turn 4 wall. And here's the final view of the crash, mounted off turn number 4 in the distance.
Oh my goodness!
See those cars just in the air.
I think they took out the caution light.
Yeah, there might be one less caution light around this racetrack as 3 cars go airborne, and one of them included the driver who was set to start on the outside of the front row, Zachary DeLello, as Conrad Evans leads the second Gatorade Duel here at the Daytona International Speedway. Coming back to the green flag here in the second Gatorade Duel of the afternoon, and a lot breaking under this caution flag, cars and news and all sorts. So we have 3 cars that are done. They include Benny Lynn, Justin Zaidel, and Zachary DeLello. He will not start on the front row for the 500. That means whoever wins this duel is starting on the front row. You can see in the back of the screen, Jack Carter in the 54, set to restart in a transfer position at 14th. Has an issue on that car. He's dropping down. We have 21 cars running. About 18 are clean and without damage. Wells, Richardson, and Lewis are just going to try and finish this race in as high of a position as they can, as the pace car is going to turn down the pit lane and lead the field in the hands of Evans, Tuck, then Joshua Harrison. How about Laura Chung and Fitzwater? Those 2 started back on the last row. They're now inside the top 5 late in the race. Green flag back in the air in the second Gatorade Duel.
Well, Joe, do you think the intensity's gonna? Well, never mind.
Yep, it is already. You can already see everyone pulling out of line, trying to get whatever positions they can down into turn 1.
They're already 3 wide in the back. I almost said they're 6 wide in the back, but it was the 6 car going 3 wide.
Well, there was a 6 car making it pretty wide back there, I think you can say. As Evans still leads as they try to get up to full speed. Here comes Fitzwater. I mean, that man is on a mission early on in this race, trying to get up to the front. Now that caution, it was extended a little bit because, as you mentioned, there were cars up on the wall. They had to make sure the wall was okay, make sure the fence was okay, caution lights, whatever. So it was an extended caution flag. Took a lot of laps out of this race. So now, Fitzwater moved his way through the field. He now has the track position, coming back to 6 to go. We'll see if he can try and hold it, but I think Ryan Wilson has other plans. That 15 with a big push from Tim Gary, moving down to the bottom. The MB2 cars didn't qualify well. However, Trey, they look like they're racing pretty darn good as we get down to the nitty-gritty here in the second duel.
I mean, honestly, whenever we come to these restrictor plate tracks, you have to at least see at least one of these guys up front, right? Either the 10 or the 36, because it seems like no matter when or where it is, but one of these 2 are always up front during one of these super speedway races.
Well, each driver on MB2 has 1 career victory, and both of them came at drafting style racetracks. Tim Gary came at Texas World, not technically a super speedway. It doesn't have restrictor plates on it. Still a lot of drafting involved in it. Evan Hunter won at Talladega back in 2001. So these MB2 guys, they know how to use the draft to their advantage. And right now, Tim Gary's up in 2nd place. Hunter trying to join him. That 36 moving on the inside. How about Hunter Reed in that 45? It's going to be hard not to mention him as the most impressive rookie anymore because he's now a sophomore in the series. But he was the most impressive rookie in the 2002 campaign. And now you have to think with some experience under his belt, he's going to be even better in this second season, that number 45 car.
Wow, everyone left at 15 up to the top side, and he fell back like an anchor. He dropped so quickly.
Stout tried to get beneath that number 45 of Reed, but just couldn't get it done as the front 4 get clear in single file. Here comes Luke Rainey, the 88, up inside the top 5 to 5th. And then Brett Searer making his way back to the front, and so is Joshua Harrison. Gary looking for the lead. Evans can't block it. Gary has a slight nose to the inside. He'll go for the lead down into turn number 1.
Oh, do you see that in front of us, Joe?
Yeah, so you have to think, though, Carter came off pit road. If the car is fine, he's probably just slower because he doesn't have draft. I have to think that that car, once it gets into draft, should be up to full speed. So I don't think it's going to be too bad of a detriment unless he starts to cycle drivers out of the bottom lane and he's a lap car. Then it could be a little bit problematic for these drivers.
It's going to be a matter of where we end up catching him here and what line he ends up picking. I don't think the car was involved in the accident, was it?
No, he just had that issue under the caution. He just pulled off for whatever reason. I don't know if he felt maybe a flat tire. There was a lot of debris over there. He may have ran over some kind of flat tire. Now he came off pit road.
Oh, here we go.
Doesn't have the draft, and he's gonna. Oh, he blocked Stout.
Wow, talk about cutting it close.
That's not how you make friends.
I mean, it didn't really slow them down any.
No, because now they're pushing him.
Oh, there they go.
Back to full throttle, and Stout's gonna move low. And now that Jack Carter's in the draft, he should be up to full speed. It's just, he was a little bit slower because he didn't have the draft at that point. And all about draft here at these restrictor plate tracks.
Yeah, and you got to imagine everyone else just saw him kind of block the Stout there. So it'll be interesting to see how everyone else negotiates around that 54. But in the meantime, Stout still out front here with Fitzwater right behind him.
And only 2 laps to go in this duel. So we have Stout, Fitzwater, Sierra, and Hunter. Here comes Evan Hunter for 3rd place. Laura Chung moving back up to the inside of that number 9 to 5th place, moving by Matthew Burnett. And then the DEI cars. Anthony Hernandez and Ryan Wilson are lined up with Matt Tuck and Hunter Reed coming on the bottom as well. Sierra trying to get in line and block Laura Chung. Chung is having none of that. Evan Hunter's having none of those front 2 staying single file. He wants to win this race for himself, moving low on Fitzwater. Coming back to the white flag in the second Gatorade duel. It's still Stout leading, but Evan Hunter's a hard-charging car, moving up to 2nd place, coming around to that final lap.
The only thing that's going to hurt Hunter here is that he really does not have any help behind him here, Joe. I mean, it goes to the bottom. That's still a car length, half a car length in between those 2 guys, so we'll have to wait to see what happens.
We'll see if Laura Chung, if she can try and get up there and help Evan Hunter out. This is the final lap of the duel. Winner starts in the front row, the outside of the front row, for the 2003 Daytona 500. Jordan Stout in the number 6 with the lead. Evan Hunter is in 2nd, Laura Chung's in 3rd, and Ryan Wilson is in 4th. As they race down the backstretch, here comes Hunter. Laura Chung trying to block Ryan Wilson. Hunter to the inside, Jordan Stout. Wilson trying to come with them. It's a mad scramble down to turn 3 for the final time for the outside of the front row. Evan Hunter is clear out in front of Stout. They're side by side, still made behind them. It's going to be over in Daytona. A Pontiac wins the second duel, and it's Evan Hunter in the M&M's 36. What a charge on that last lap. I can't believe he made that pass work. I can't believe that he had the help with him. Laura Chung stayed with them, and Evan Hunter got to victory lane.
That was, I'm speechless.
That was a good one there. And Evan Hunter's just put himself up there with a fast race car to say, you know what, maybe I'm a favorite for this Daytona 500. Screw the Hendrick guys. Maybe you should pick me instead.
Yeah, that was, we'll talk about making a statement for yourself and your team. I think he just did it.
Yeah, think about MB2, won 2 races back in 2001, but they weren't that consistent. Last season, they didn't win any races, but were ultra consistent. So maybe they found the best of both worlds. No, by the way, with Joe Gibbs leaving Pontiac, that leaves this team as the major Pontiac team. You have to think that Pontiac is pouring a lot of resources into this team, and that they might be a team to watch out for to possibly contend for one of those top spots in the championship. As Ryan Wilson, a little bit too much
I was
going to
say that was a little close for comfort there, wasn't it?
It was. As we'll go now check out who has locked their way in. Hernandez was with these DI cars. They don't know.
There's tempers going on right now, Joe.
I don't know if it's tempers or if they just. I mean,
I'm not trying to take away from what you were saying, but they're I don't know what's going on with those guys.
Yeah, the DI guys. They must have forgotten how to drive on pit road or something, because we had Wilson almost run to the back, and then Hernandez actually did run to the back of a car. So.
Alrighty then.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's get to the finishing order.
Yeah, let's get to the finishing order. See who has locked their way in. to the Daytona 500. Top 15 finishers from this one will do that. Evan Hunter, one of them. Ryan Wilson, Jordan Stout. We have Matthew Burnett and Laura Chung. Hunter Reed, Matt Tuck, Conrad Evans, Bibby Ruiz, Zachary Fitzwater Sr., Luke Rainey, Joshua Harrison, Anthony Hernandez, Brett Sierra, and Tim Gary have locked their way in. Drivers are going to have to fall back on speed or owner's points. We have the 49 of Colin Teague, the 09 of Ali Liera. We have the 99 of Richardson, the 20 of Wells, the 91 of Colin Lewis, Jack Carter, Justin Zaidel, Zachary DeLello, and obviously Benny Lynn. As 3 of those cars were out, the 54 Jack Carter did fall a lap down from that pit issue, and we obviously had a few cars lose the draft after that restart from damage or whatnot. So we'll take a quick break here on JTV and come back and determine which 6 drivers will fail to make the 2003 Daytona 500. Back here on JRTV at the conclusion of the 2 Gatorade duels here at Daytona. Keegan Thompson, Evan Hunter have come home winners in them. But the big pressing question of the afternoon is which drivers will unfortunately fail to start the Daytona 500 for the 2003 season. And Trey, this came out a lot closer for some drivers than they probably initially thought it was going to be. A lot of big name drivers that failed to make it in based on their race pace during the duels, like Mathis Wells, Justin Atkins, Keyshawn Richardson, Eli Bright, Justin Zaidel, who are all pretty high in owner's points. So it kind of made some of the drivers that were around 20th or so kind of questionable on if they would make it. But the 4 drivers that raced their way in on speed are the 19 of Nolan Lawrence, the 20 of Mathis Wells, the 67 of Jude Martinelli, and the 43 of Roberto Crown Jr. Those 4 have made it on speed. Now to go off of the owner's points, where doing well in 2002 really helped these drivers out, it was the 30 of Atkins, the 99 of Keyshawn Richardson, Eli Brighton the 8, Justin Zaidel the 24, the 12 of Mitchell Collins, and the 40 of Benny Lynn. That means the 6 drivers that will go home and not be able to compete in the 2003 Daytona 500, Jack Carter in the 54, Colin Lewis in the 91, Jason Albert in the 41, the 49 of Colin Teague, the 09 of Ali Liera, and the 77 of Tyler Belladonna. So Trey, not too many surprises that missed out on the Daytona 500 just because these were cars that not only did they not qualify well, they either didn't race last season, or if they raced last season, they didn't do that well in owner's points. So Trey, unfortunately, those 6 drivers not going to be able to compete in the 500, and also not good for them because a lot of them are going to be competing for that top 35 in owner's points after the first 5 races to lock your way in. And if they miss the 500, puts them on a step back already, and we haven't even started the season yet.
Yeah, it's why you gotta love and hate speed weeks, huh?
Yep, it is. It's a mess at points, and for the 54 for the 91, yeah, the 54, even the 91, the 54, the 41, and the 09. They're like, man, I was top 42 in speed, but I still missed it. And, drivers that were lower than me on speed made it just because they raced their way in. So that's the unfortunate nature of Daytona 500 speed weeks, but that's just how it all works out. It's the biggest race of the season. There's a lot of glitz and glamour to get into this race, so it's a little bit extra to try and get in. And not only do you have to have a fast race car to get in, you have to have a car that races well as well. And we saw that with Evan Hunter, Keegan Thompson, and Trey. After these 2 duels, which team or which driver do you think really kind of set themselves up to be like, I'm the man that can win the Daytona 500 this season?
Oh, jeez. I don't know. Those Hendrick guys look strong. You can't that 5 and the 5 and the 48 can't put those ones out. But Joe, what we just watched, that 36 might be someone to mess with as well.
Yeah, and I'd also watch maybe the 11 Joshua Harrison, who looked like he had a pretty sporty car in the second duel. Maybe some other underdogs as well can try and work their way up there. And, maybe like we saw some of the Chip Ganassi cars work well together. I know Jason Albert missed the show, but we saw Stapleton and he worked well together towards the end of that duel. Benny Lynn obviously involved in the crash, didn't really get to race much here today, but we'll have to see about those Chip Ganassi cars. Look out for the Petty cars. They looked pretty fast, so did the Penske cars. So I still think it's anyone's game, but definitely you have to think the Hendrick cars put themselves up on a level. Evan Hunter winning this one obviously put himself up on a level as well, but Sunday will answer all the questions. The 2003 Daytona 500 will be the next event on JRTV. Looking forward to that one. It's the biggest race of the season. It's the kickoff of the season. and we'll have to see who can start out their 2003 campaign on the right foot here at Daytona. For Trey Bardo, I'm Joe Markowski. So long from the Gatorade Duels here at Daytona, but tune in just a few days' time for the 2003 Daytona 500.